The Carolina Panthers stormed back from 17 points down on Sunday to beat the Miami Dolphins. We'll take a look back at the good, the bad, and the ugly from that win. And will Jalen Coker make his season debut this Sunday against Dallas? We'll break it all down right here on Locked On Panthers.
You are Locked On Panthers, your daily Carolina Panthers podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome into another edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, the part of the Locked On Podcast Network. I'm your host, as always, Julian Council, talking Carolina Panthers with you every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and yes, of course, Friday, your team every day. That's our motto here on the Locked On Podcast Network. Thanks for watching the show right here on YouTube and listening wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. By the way, tomorrow is Wednesday, and on Wednesdays throughout the entirety of the regular season, I'm right here on the show answering your weekly Wednesday mailbag questions. So either at me or DM me over on Twitter at Julian Council, and do the same over on Blue Sky at Julian Council to get your questions in for tomorrow's edition of the weekly Wednesday mailbag right here on Locked On Panthers. On Fridays throughout the regular season, I give you my 3 keys of victory for the Carolina Panthers. Then on Tuesday, review how they did with those 3 keys. Jalen Coker has missed the first 5 games of the season, but his 21-day practice window will be opened up on Wednesday, and it's possible that he will play on Sunday. And if he does, how will that impact the Panthers wide receiver room? But let's start off as we start off every single Tuesday by looking back at the good, the bad, and the ugly from the Panthers' most recent game. And this time, we're talking about a lot of good as Carolina came back from a 17-0 deficit to beat the Miami Dolphins 27-24 at home on Sunday, staying undefeated so far here in 2025 inside Bank of America Stadium. It tied the franchise's biggest comeback in history. The last time they came back from 17 down was back in 2018 when Cam Newton led the Panthers back in Philadelphia for a win against the Eagles. You also remember going back to 2003, week 1, down 17-0 against Jacksonville, came back, won that game, and of course, went on to the Super Bowl. We talked about it throughout the offseason with Ohio State winning the national championship, J-Lo getting divorced, Carolina playing Jacksonville to start the season. Could it be another year for Carolina? Well, they lost a game against Jacksonville. They won it in 2015. They won it in 2003, so maybe they needed to lose and then have a comeback like this to turn their entire season around. But of course, let's not get too ahead of ourselves. Let's wait and see how they respond on Sunday against the Cowboys team who can absolutely put points on the board, and Carolina will likely need to keep up. But looking back at the good, the bad, and the ugly from the win against Miami, of course, we start off with the good, the defense. After the first 3 series, I thought played really well in this game. The opening drive, they gave up a field goal, which is totally fine. It's not a touchdown, whatever. You would rather them punt, but a field goal, you can live with that. That's not going to beat you. Then after that, Bryce Young has a terrible fumble. He has a bad interception, and the defense does not do a good job in sudden change in keeping points off the board, which has been a common theme so far this season, as Jacksonville 10 points off of Bryce Young turnovers, Arizona 10 points off of Bryce Young turnovers, and the one of them, the fumble recovery, not on the Panthers defense, and they actually did a good job holding them to a field goal after the interception. But on Sunday, they did not do a great job giving up 14 points off of turnovers there. But after that, 5 straight series, they held Miami to 0 points. 5 straight series, the Dolphins had to punt, and that gave the Panthers offense, who took a long time to do it, but it gave them an opportunity to take advantage of that and eventually take the lead. Yes, the Panthers defense gave the lead right back up on that next drive, a 46-yard touchdown from Tua Tagovailoa to Jalen Waddle as he beat Mike Jackson. But then after that, the Panthers offense went right back down the field, was able to score a touchdown, and then the defense got the timely stop, got off the field, forced Mike McDaniel to make really a decision I don't think he wanted to make in that situation by punting, rushing the punt team up there. They punted the ball away. Hunter Renfrow gets held, PI, and Carolina is able to stay on the field, get that 3rd down, kneel it out, and win this game 27-24 and improve upon the season at 2-3. So I thought, aside from the sudden change and giving up that 1 touchdown in the 4th quarter, I thought the defense actually played pretty well and was able to bounce back after last week's performance up in New England, where maybe the Patriots actually are good, as they went to Buffalo on Sunday night and won that game. So things can change week to week here in the NFL. And Lord knows that is the case here in Carolina. Another good Rico Dowdle rushing for a career high 206 yards on Sunday. That is second most in Panthers history, tied with Jonathan Stewart, just 4 yards off of D'Angelo Williams, who set the record back in 2012, 210 yards in a single game rushing for a Panthers player. If you look at Rico's previous career high, it was 149 yards. Coincidentally, last year inside Bank of America Stadium, playing for the Dallas Cowboys. He had a 68% rushing success rate on Sunday, which is his second best in his career behind last year versus Washington, where he was at 68.2. And if you take away the 2 runs at the end when Carolina was really trying to get a first down, but also forced Miami to call timeout, he would have been over 70%. So he was outstanding. He had 5 explosive runs on the day. That's runs over 12 yards, 5 of them a 53-yarder, a 44-yarder, 16-yarder. He was outstanding. And he said in the locker room on Sunday, and I missed this. I had talked to Vast. I heard of Carolina Blitz right before the press conference today that we had with Dave Canales, and she had mentioned, oh yeah, did you see what Rico had said? She's going to ask Dave about that. And yeah, Rico apparently had called for a certain run call, and Dave's like, fine, we're going to run it. You better make something out of it. And he ran 53 yards. So you got the players calling the plays, but you got to love the confidence that the coaches have in their players too. If they ask for something like that, they'll give it to them. And those guys were able to execute. Derek Brown also was asking for more pass rushing ability, and you saw him get a sack there on that opening drive where Miami had to settle for a field goal. So yeah, Rico Dowdle was outstanding. And Dave was asked with Chuba Hubbard potentially coming back this week, what does that mean for Rico and for Chuba as far as the carry disparity or split? And he said it's a good problem to have. They have 2 fantastic running backs, and maybe we'll see more of that with a possible smash and dash double trouble part 2 here in Carolina with Rico Dowdle and Chuba Hubbard once he is healthy. Maybe could be this Sunday against Dowdle's former team, the Dallas Cowboys. Pass rush, I thought that actually did make a difference on Sunday. Now, they only had a 25% PFF pressure percentage and had 3 sacks on the game. When the sacks occurred, though, is really what's important. Derek Brown, his sack there on the opening drive for Miami, that forced a field goal, kept the Dolphins out of the end zone. You'll always take that to win in the red zone. A'Shawn Robinson had a sack that forced Miami to punt the ball before the half, giving Carolina an opportunity there in a 2-minute drill. And for the first time this season, they were able to actually get down the field and score, in large part because yet another first down run. Rico Dowdle actually was able to bust one loose for 24 yards, and that got them in position to eventually kick a field goal to make it 17-10 going into the half. And then Pat Jones the second effectively ended the game where he got that punt or that sack rather of Tua Tagovailoa that forced a Miami Dolphins punt. And if you look at just the first half and the second half, because Dave Canales brought this up on Monday that he felt like the pass rush really got there, the pressure was getting there in the second half. They had a 41.2% pressure percentage in the second half compared to 13% in the first half. Mind you, the sack from Robinson and Brown both happened in the first half, but they were getting far more pressure there in the second half. So I thought that was another good. The comeback, similar situation as week 2 in Arizona, except there's a lot more time left on the clock. They could have folded. They didn't. They fought back. The defense did a great job holding Miami down offensively, and the Panthers kept pounding. And they were able to come back and tie their franchise record for comeback margin. And that is a huge, huge win for them and quite possibly could be a turnaround, but we'll see. I had someone ask me in my DMs over on Twitter at Julian Council whether I felt like this is finally the turnaround for Carolina. Well, we thought maybe after the way they played in the second half against Arizona and the 30-0 beat down of Atlanta, that was going to finally be the potential turnaround. And then they went out there and they lost 42-40. I can't even remember whatever the score was in New England. They got their 42 out of the 13, got their ass kicked. So are they going to do that again against Dallas, or are they going to be able to go out there and compete once again and possibly win and get the 500? We will find out on Sunday here in Charlotte. The bad, Bryce Young turnovers, very clearly the bad. He has 7 of them so far this season. 34 points have been scored off of those turnovers. The Panthers are now 2-18 in games where Bryce has a turnover. They had only won one time heading into Sunday. That was last year against New Orleans. To be able to get the win against Miami, who is not a very good team, much like the Saints weren't a very good team, kind of shows you that unless Panthers are just better than the team like they were on Sunday, 418 yards compared to 248 for the Dolphins. They were a better team. This really would not have been a competitive game had Bryce not given 14 points away to Miami. And yes, the defense has to do better, but I give Bryce credit for bouncing back and making that play on fourth down to find T-Mac and being able to find Xavier Legette, the throw to Legette on the game-winning drive, throw to Jimmy Horn Jr., and then the touchdown throw to Mitchell Evans. The Panthers don't win that game if he does not make those plays. But it's also not really a game if he does not make the turnover, so that has to stop. If Bryce turns it over, typically Carolina loses, and they are not going to likely overcome that kind of deficit yet again. Now, defending tight ends as well was a part of the bad. Darren Waller had 5 receptions, 78 yards, and a touchdown in the first half. But after that, in the second half, there was an adjustment made, and it didn't seem to be really much at all. J.C. Horn, I was talking to him in the locker room after the game just about Darren Waller having success and what changed in the second half. And he was just talking about communication. I was like, that was it? All you guys did was communicate better? And he's like, yeah, it's simple. That's all we did. We didn't change anything in the locker room. He said they went out there, they just did a better job of communicating. I talked to Nick Scott about this a couple of weeks ago following the game against Atlanta, where what had changed for them defensively. He talks about the 3 things: communication, leverage, and effort. They communicated, they had the right leverage, and of course they had the right effort, and that all came together there in the second half against Darren Waller. But that still has remained a common theme where the Carolina Panthers defense has not done a great job against tight ends. And there also was a change where we saw Trevin Wallace actually wearing a green dot and playing more snaps on Sunday and being out there in the dime package more so than we had seen in the first couple of weeks, where that was Christian Roseboom. So it appears that they feel like Trevin Wallace, and you look at the PFF numbers, is better against in coverage than looking at Christian Roseboom, who really has struggled doing that so far this season. So a little bit of a change there, and I think probably helped him out also against Darren Waller in the second half. And then the one thing I want to point out here is that the Panthers have gotten themselves into a 17-point 3-score hole multiple times this season. A matter of fact, week 1 in Jacksonville, they were down 20-3. Week 2 in Arizona, down 20-3. They were down big, of course, in New England. Then on Sunday, down 17-0. So in 4 out of the 5 games, the Panthers have been down by 3 scores, and they're 1-4. Which, they're 2-3 on the season, but they're 1-3 in those games. Like, they should be 1-4, and really, if they weren't a better team than Miami. And again, the total yardage tells you who was better. And the fact that you could turn it over twice and still win that game tells you Carolina's a better team than Miami. If they weren't better than the Dolphins, they don't come back and win that game. Like, there's a lot, like Dallas, they do that on Sunday, they're going to lose. They do that against Buffalo, they're going to lose. They do that against the Jets, they could probably still win. So that's got to stop, because if they're going to continue to get down 3 scores, they're going to end up having like a 4-win season. And this is not sustainable. And we're going to be asking real questions about everyone within the organization at the end of the year if that continues. And it's great that they fight. That's a good, but the ugly part of it is they're even in a position at the fight back from that kind of hole. So cannot continue to dig themselves into these 3-score holes like they have for the first 5 games of the season. Hopefully for Carolina, that changes on Sunday as they welcome Dallas into town. Dave Canales met with the media on Monday. I was there in attendance, gave us an update on Chuba Hubbard, and also gave us an update on Jalen Coker. And I'm very curious how things will play out in the wide receiver room when Jalen Coker comes back. We'll talk about that here in just a moment on Locked on Panthers. This episode is brought to you by Prize Picks. Every day we make decisions, but on Prize Picks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with Prize Picks, where it's good to be right. Playing Prize Picks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and you're in the game. I love how quick it is. You can make your lineup in under a minute. My favorite part, Prize Picks just added stacks. So if you want to ride with a player, I can select their pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns all in one lineup. It's also fun to follow other players in the app and copy their lineups with one click, and the new injury reboot feature. If your player leaves early and doesn't return, it won't count against you. Download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, it's good to be right. All right, back here on Locked On Panthers, and once again, tomorrow is Wednesday, which means the weekly Wednesday mailbag is back here on the show. All you got to do is hit me up over on Twitter and Blue Sky at Julian Council, DM me, at me on both of those locations, and just send me in whatever questions that you have for Wednesday's show, and I'll get those answered for you. Dave Canales, Carolina Panthers head coach, met with the media on Monday afternoon. I was there in attendance as they broke down the Panthers' 27-24 win against Miami Dolphins at home on Sunday, coming back from 17 points down. Of course, said huge for the guys. Come back, get that win, get to 2-3, and now welcome in Dallas on Sunday. And a couple of updates that he gave us. Chuba Hubbard, of course, Rico Dowdle was outstanding, rushing for 206 yards on Sunday in that win. But Chuba Hubbard was out with a calf injury, something that's plagued him over the last couple of weeks. He played last Sunday against New England, even though he was limited on Thursday and Friday at practice with the calf. Then last week did not practice at all. And they decided, let's take it day to day. Let's sit him on Sunday. And Dave told us again that they're going to take it day to day. See how Chuba's able to respond. And if he plays, great. We'll see how things play out. Because Dave then said again that it's good to have two good backs. That's what he takes away from what happened on Sunday with Rico, and that they'll, figure it out. It's a good problem to have, and absolutely is. Now, Rico Dowdle did say watch out as far as the Dallas Cowboys when it comes to Sunday and what he wants to do against his former team. He called a shot last week to his former Gamecock teammate, J.C. Horn, saying he's going to run for at least 180 yards. Well, yeah, he ran for a little bit more than that, 206 yards. I don't know what he's going to be calling out on Sunday. We'll try to talk to him on Wednesday if he's available after practice, or maybe even on Thursday, and maybe he'll let us know what he's planning to do. I don't think he wants to give the Cowboys any sort of locker room bulletin board material. We'll see. But he's already let it be known that he's ready to go. And you look at Dallas, it would have made a lot of sense to keep Rico Dowdle. I know Javonte Williams, former North Carolina Tar Heel, has been playing well recently, but damn, Rico was outstanding. And we'll see if he and Chuba Hubbard can end up being a dynamic duo like we all thought potentially could be the case here in 2025. Dave also gave us an update on Jalen Coker. Did tell us last week on Friday that he was going to open up his practice window, but things could change, and he did confirm that the 21-day practice window for Jalen Coker to return off of IR will be opened on Wednesday, and they're going to get to see what he looks like playing football. I asked Dave if there's a chance that Jalen plays. He said maybe. Really? He's got to wait to see what he looks like out there on the field. He's been doing conditioning kind of stuff, running around, but actually playing the game and seeing where he fits in, like that's what they want to see on Wednesday, on Thursday, then, of course, on Friday as well. And he was asked about how that will impact the wide receiver room, which is a question I was asked a couple of weeks ago on the mailbag, and I told that person then, hard to answer it at that point in time because we didn't really know what Xavier Legette was going to look like when he came back and how roles for guys like Jimmy Horn may play out, how Hunter Renfrow is going to perform. But now that we're pretty much here to where Coker could make his season debut on Sunday, I don't really have a great read of whether he will or not. I had a good read that he wouldn't be ready last week, but this week will be interesting to see how it plays out and whether he indeed is able to go on Sunday. When you look at it, Carolina's kept 5 receivers active all 5 weeks so far this season. I would expect that to be the case again on Sunday against Dallas. The 2 guys who, without a doubt, will be active and will be a big part of the game plan in that room are Tetero McMillan and Xavier Legette. And certainly there's been a lot of criticism of XL based off how he performed in the first 2 weeks of the season. He got a nice 2-week reset because of the hamstring injury, and then he went out there and played on Sunday and had that touchdown, great catch, had another important catch on that game-winning drive. Good to see him take a step forward. Was it a dynamic performance? No, but still, he did what he needed to do. When they went to him, he made the plays. I will take that. It's a positive, and he can only build on that moving forward heading into the rest of the season. So he will play. And Dave Canales also talked about his trust in XL. When we asked him a couple weeks ago, I didn't ask, but someone asked about potentially benching him. He's like, no, I trust Xavier. He never said that about Bryce Young last year when Bryce was struggling, but he said it about XL. So he's going to play. So T-Mac, XL, those guys are playing. After that, it's 4 guys for 3 spots because David Moore is on IR and Dale Von Campbell is no longer here in Carolina. It's going to be between Jalen Coker, Hunter Renfrow, Jimmy Horn Jr., and Bryson Tremaine. Now, let's just be honest here. If Jalen Coker is ready to go, he's going to play. So it's going to be T-Mac, XL, and Jalen Coker as the top 3 wide receivers here in Carolina. So then between Hunter Renfrow, Jimmy Horn Jr., and Bryson Tremaine, who gets the final 2 spots? Well, I think Bryson Tremaine absolutely would be fine in that situation as well because they like him to block on rundowns, and they also like him on special teams. He's played a good amount of snaps on special teams so far this season, and a big reason why he's even on the roster in the first place. And they've had guys like David Moore go down, Dale Von Campbell go down. They've had a couple of special teamers that they've lost, and they're not going to have Bryson Tremaine not be active considering the kind of injuries they've had there on Tracy Smith's special teams unit so far here in Carolina this season. So it's down to Hunter Renfrow and Jimmy Horn Jr. If you look at it, Hunter, his numbers since that performance in the second half against Arizona, they've been down the last 3 weeks. He's had 5 receptions for 23 yards. Looking at Bryson Tremaine, he's had 6 receptions for 60 yards during that same time span. So he's outperformed Hunter Renfrow as a receiver, and he also plays special teams. So again, like, he's going to be fun. Jimmy Horn Jr., he got his debut on Sunday. He had 2 receptions, and he got a couple of jet sweeps, but a big catch, obviously, on that 4th down on that game-winning drive. I would guess that Jimmy's going to continue to get more opportunities offensively. And I did ask Dave about that. He didn't really say, like, we'll see. He's going to have to continue to do the right things and improve and yada, yada, yada. But Dave's also the same guy who cut Hunter Renfrow and didn't think that Hunter was ready to go. And you're kind of looking at, aside from the second half there during that comeback against Arizona, you're kind of seeing where Dave is coming from because Hunter really hasn't had much of an impact. You have to go back to what was basically Hunter Renfrow day when Dabo Swinney was still having that preseason glow, believing he had a good team at Clemson. He was there watching Hunter, and Hunter was making a bunch of plays. Since then, he hasn't really done much. He injured his hamstring, came back, and didn't really perform. I was kind of curious whether he was going to make the team, especially when seeing that Bryson Tremaine didn't play against Pittsburgh in that final preseason game. I asked him about it. He said he wasn't even thinking about it at all. And, well, we saw he got cut. And then we saw Adam Thielen got traded. And they still didn't bring back Hunter Renfrow until Jalen Coker went down and got hurt. So I'll be curious because he wasn't going to make the team. Jimmy Horn Jr., well, he didn't make the team. Jimmy Horn Jr. did make the team, and Jimmy had to wait his turn. And once he waited and got the opportunity, he made the most out of it. So my guess is it's going to be between Jimmy and Hunter. And if I were to guess just to pick one guy right now, I would say that Hunter is probably going to be inactive, and it would be Jimmy who gets the opportunity there on offense, especially when you're looking at the punt return game right now. David Moore's injured. Trevor Etienne's not been good back there. TJ Dallas made a mistake. Hunter didn't look comfortable. Jimmy could fill that role. And I'm going to ask Tracy Smith about that on Thursday morning when we meet with the coordinators via Zoom. But Jimmy could probably help out on special teams as a returner. And also, as you already saw, can help out as a gadget guy and a guy that you need on the money down there late in the 4th quarter. So they'll be very interesting to see how things play out once Jalen Coker is ready to go. Will that be this week or next week? Only time will tell, as this will be the first week he will practice this regular season here in Carolina as they are opening up his 21-day window to return on Wednesday afternoon. On Fridays, I give you my 3 keys of victory, and on Tuesdays, we come back and review those keys. Let's do that from the Panthers' 27-24 win against Miami here in just a moment on Locked On Panthers. Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how they craft every model. You can feel Japanese craftsmanship in every detail. From the metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery, you can make everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls, with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, Mazda sweats every detail because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. Every Friday throughout the entirety of the regular season, I give you my 3 keys victory for the Carolina Panthers heading into that Sunday's matchup. Then on Tuesdays following week, I review those keys with you. And let's go ahead and do that right now. Key number 1 was to get the passing game going. Bryce Young headed into that game on Sunday where 20 out of his 32 starts he had thrown for less than 200 yards through the air. And now it's been 21 out of his 33 starts in the National Football League, as he only threw for 198 yards. The hope was, though, getting Xavier Legette back would help the offense be a little bit more dynamic. Jimmy Horn Jr. is going to get an opportunity as well. And I kind of feel like they got the passing game going when they needed to. Bryce made that great play to T-Mac on that 4th down to keep really the game alive, because had they turned over on downs then, especially where they were at that on the part of the field, that could have gotten out of control. They maybe were down 24-0. And then at that point in time, no way back, you would think, at home, even against a team that clearly is not very good in Miami. But he makes that play, finds XL for a touchdown, found XL later on that game-winning drive, a great catch and throw and catch there for those guys. Jimmy Horn Jr. on that 4th down, finding Mitchell Evans as well. And then T-Mac had 6 receptions for 73 yards. So the passing game, it didn't need to be great because you had 230 something yards on the ground and 206 of those from Rico Dowdle. So when you run the ball that well, you don't really need to throw for 300 yards or even more than 200 yards. But I felt like getting at least a 198, making the throws that Bryce made when they needed him to, they kind of did get the passing game going. But I would love to see just more 250-yard passing days and less interceptions and fumbles. And part of that too is going to impact the passing yardage when you have those kind of turnovers and have short drives like that. So, yeah, I think they overall kind of got to where I was hoping they would be. Number 2, win on 3rd down. Miami entered the game 31st when it came to 3rd down defense, but they had the 2nd best conversion rate on offense. The Dolphins overall on Sunday were 5 of 13 offensively on 3rd down, while the Panthers were 5 of 11. The Dolphins had 5 3-and-outs, while the Panthers only had 1. So the Panthers defensively in the middle part of the game, like I mentioned earlier, we're looking at back at the good, the bad, and the ugly, did a really good job of holding Tua Tagovailoa and the Miami Dolphins defense or offense down and getting them off the field. So I would say the Panthers also were able to win on 3rd down. And the most important 3rd down of the game was the one that occurred there on that 4th down. And they were on that 3rd down. What am I even saying? On that 3rd down, on Miami's final possession, what turned out to be Miami's final possession, Pat Jones got that sack. Then the next possession for Carolina, they were able to get the 3rd down or get the 1st down on that 3rd down because of a penalty called on Miami. And then the final thing was to number 3, play from ahead. The Dolphins led for 50 minutes and 36 seconds in this game, while the Panthers were only ahead for 3 minutes and 27 seconds. So, yeah, they did not play from ahead. They failed. And as soon as they took the lead, they gave it right back. And then they went back there and got the lead. And there was not much time left on the clock at all. So, good thing it's only a 60-minute game. Unlikely to be that sustainable to be behind. But there are teams, I believe Tennessee was behind the entirety of the game until there was 0 seconds on the clock. A couple of years ago when Carolina went 2-15, when they beat Houston, beat Atlanta, they never led in those games. But they were able to lead at the end when there was 0 on the clock. So that's all that matters, is that you have the lead when there's nothing left on the clock there in the 4th quarter. And Carolina didn't play from ahead, but they were able to win at the end of the day there, 27-24 against Miami. That's going to wrap up this edition of the Locked On Panthers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, hosted by yours truly, Julian Council. Again, y'all subscribe or follow the show for free over on YouTube or wherever you listen to your favorite podcast. And be sure to follow me, Julian Council, over on Twitter and on Blue Sky at Julian Council. As tomorrow is Wednesday and the weekly Wednesday mailbag is back, at me or DM me over on Twitter or over on Blue Sky to get those questions into me right now. In the meantime, be safe, be happy, be whole, and I will talk to y'all on Wednesday.